unlike sa preparation of balance sheet and income statement, it's just a matter of placing into proper statements or the accounts. Now, in the preparation of the cash flow, we will both use the income statement and the balance sheet. So this is very important. You have to somehow take focus on our discussion this afternoon. I'm using another book somehow because this is more. This is easier. No, this is an easier reference in the preparation of the cash flow. So I will be furnishing you a copy of the PowerPoint, but still you can refer to the book that we provided. Katong weighted pa siguro to. So similar na siya, but it's just that the approach in presenting the process here is more simple compared to more detailed and simple compared to the material prepared for compared to the material together with this book that we were using. So this is another author. So this is chapter 13, specifically the preparation of cash flows. There are two methods of preparing a cash flow. However, for our discussion, we will only limit ourselves to preparing one method. And then when we go to financial accounting, that would be your next accounting subject. So that we will be tackling the other method somehow because it's more complicated. Okay, so in the method that we will be using, for as long as you have the income statement and then you have the balance sheet, then dali na nato siya ma-construct ang cash flow. So here, this will be these are the topics. Learning objectives na to, discuss the usefulness and format of the statement of cash flows, and then prepare a statement of cash flows using the indirect method. So muna akong giingon nga, there are two methods, the direct and indirect method. So what we will be preparing only will be the indirect method. And then the analysis of the statement of cash flows, this will be in our financial accounting. So our focus lang will be in the preparation of the cash flow. Okay, so here, the usefulness of the statement of cash flows provides information to help assess the following: entities' ability to generate future cash flows, entities' ability to pay dividends and meet obligations, then reasons for difference between net income and net cash provided or used by operating activities. I remember we learned earlier nga there are two accounting methods, the cash basis and the accrual basis. So in here, we will try to reconcile the numbers between these two. Because somehow, what we are preparing, what we are doing is the accrual basis. Now, what we will try to do is from the accrual basis, we will try to derive the cash. We will try to derive the cash balance. And then with that, ato na po tayo siyang i-transform ang accrual to cash basis. So, mo na siyang kuan. Kaya kung cash basis na unta ang atong in the bookkeeping and the accounting system, kung cash basis lang yun unta, wala siya problema. Okay, you just deduct all your payments from your cash receipts, then you will arrive at your cash on hand. But dili man kay accrual basis man ta, na kay mga depreciation, na kay mga accounts receivable, na kay mga prepayments. So somehow, there's a process of deriving how much is your cash on hand, from deriving from the accrual basis of accounting to cash basis of accounting para ma-derive na to pila ang cash at the end of the period. Okay, so cash investing and financing transactions during the period. Now, in the indirect method and both the direct and indirect method, we will classify our cash flows as to operating activities. So, may operating activities, these are your cash generated out of your operation, and cash payment out of for cash payments or cash disbursements to finance your operation. So, mo na siya i-consider nato as operating activities. And there are also cash disbursements or cash receipts classified as investing activities. And then there are also cash inflows and cash outflows intended for financing activities. So, if you look at the three, you have operation. No? Mura gi-categorize na gyud nato ang atong cash statement, cash flow statement as to how much is due to operation, then how much is imong gipagawas or sulod na money for investment purposes, and then the next question is, asa gikantong imong gi-invest, asa gikantong imong ipangbayad nga gigamit nimo sa operation. So, mo na siyang financing activities. So, importante kayo ni siya nga we will be able to classify all our disbursements, sources of disbursements into these three categories. So, here, in the operating activities, balikan nato, no? In the operating activities, these are the information that you will find in your income statement report. Ikanan nga makita nato sa atong income statements, cash receipts, and cash disbursements, makita nato ni siya sa atong income statement. And then for investing activities, these are the values or the amounts generated when you look into the changes in the investment and long-term assets. Diba sa
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Kanang nag-share screen ka, ma'am, kay walay mo appear sa among screen.
Hala. Ganina na gyud ko. Wa gyud mo ning ingon. Sige. Balikan na ko. Okay. So, anyway, mo ni siya ang atong mo ni ang atong learning objectives, 1 and 2 only. And then, these are the usefulness of the statement of cash flows. Ito na lang na-discuss. And these are we need to classify our cash flows as to operating, investing, and then financing activities. Now, for operating activities, these are the the data that you will find in the income statement. So, kanaragyan siya, no? Operating activities. So, di ba earlier niingon ko nga, in the preparation of the cash flow, you will use both the income statement data and balance sheet data. So, in the operating activities, you will get this information from your income statement. And then investing activities, these are the movements or the changes in the long-term assets. Diba sa katong chapter 4, we learned already the classified balance sheet. You have the current assets, you have the long-term investments, then you have the property, plant, and equipment, and then you have your intangible assets. So these are your 4 classification of assets. And then in the liabilities and stockholders' equity or owner's equity, you have the current liabilities, you have the long-term liabilities, and then the owner's equity na account. So here in the investing activities, what you will this information, you will get this information from the movement in the investment and long-term asset account na kuan na classification. So mo ni siya nga importante kaayo nga we need to classify our balance sheet because this is a prelude, or this information after classifying the balance sheet, these are also the information that we'll be using in computing the cash flow. So again, in the investing activities, what you will look into are the changes in values, in the changes in the investment, and then long-term asset accounts, duha ang asset account. In the financing activities naman, you will look into the changes in the long-term liabilities. Remember, sa atong liability, na kay current liability, na kay long-term liability, and then na kay honest equity. So, the changes or the movements in amount between two periods in the long-term liabilities, so that will be that will be construed as your financing activities to do with liabilities, to do with the stockholders' equity or owners' equity. Whatever movement, that will be a financing activity classification. So, again, I repeat, atong reiterate, there are three classifications. Now, let's go to operating activities. So, unsa di ay ni siya ng mga transaction. Now, so this, again, you will find this information in the income statement. In the cash inflow, so these are the sale of goods or services. And then, these are another source of cash inflow that will be classified as operating activities. These are interest received and dividends received. Syempre, may sale of goods or services. So this is your this is the core of your business. Baligya ka. So whatever sale you generate, that will be construed. That will be that will be automatically considered as cash inflow. Whatever you receive, whatever sales you generate, automatic na siya, that will be considered as cash inflow to the business. And then another one is the interest received. Di ba, nga naman kay interest, if you put in money in the bank, what mo gamita, definitely you will receive interest out of that. So that will be considered also as cash inflow resulting from operating. So though with dividends received, so that will also be considered as operating. Now, what are cash outflows? So these are payment to suppliers for inventory, payment to salaries, taxes, interest, and other expenses. So this kini mga cash outflow mo ni siya makita nato sa atong income statement. So these are cash outflows. Kuna operating. So what are investing activities? Atong i-classify na siya. What are investing activities? So these are amounts that you will see in the changes in investment and long-term assets. Ato na ni siya ang ikuan later on, makita nato ni later on. So these are cash inflows from sale of property, plant, and equipment. Balihon lang unahon nako ang cash outflow ha. Aron mas masabtan nato. Dinhi sa cash outflow, take a look, no? Ang iyang cash outflow are in payment for inventories, wages, taxes, interest niya, other expenses. So typically makita kita to siya nga these are gigamit sa day-to-day operations sa business. So mo nag-consider siya as operating. Diri naman sa investing activities, let's take a look first out. Let's say i-consider nato as cash outflow. Investing activities. So these are purchase of property, plant, and equipment. Nganong investing man siya, nganong dili man siya operating. It's because you put in money, you put in money for big ticket items with the intention nga imo na siyang gamiton for a longer period of time. So you invest money on something that will give you benefit in the future. Kay kung ang benefit niya outright ra na siya 1 year, so that will be considered as operating activities. But when you purchase property, plant, and equipment, that will be used for a longer period of time. So you invest on something. So that's why when you purchase property, plant, and equipment, this is a cash outflow intended for investing activities. And then another one, purchase investment in debt or equity of other entities. So meaning here, na kay extra money, niya imo siyang ni-invest ka, ni-palit ka o business, ni-invest si San Miguel Corporation, palit siya o business, nag-acquire siya o mga business. So that's for investment purposes. So whatever amount or cash outflow for that activity, that will be considered as investing. Then to make loan to other entities. So that is pwede man siya magpahulam ang business to other entities. So that will be considered as investing because that will somehow may return ani niya, that will when you purchase investment in or security, that will give you interest, right? So that will give you interest and that will increase your revenue. So that's why that interest and dividend you receive, that will be part of once ma-receive na nimo, or once it is due, that will form part sa imong operating activities. Somehow naglabo-labo na siya, no? Anyway. So make loans to other entities. So when you make loan to other entities, in return you will also receive interest. The interest you receive out of that, only siya atong gi-considered here kani interest received and then dividends received. Okay? So these are the cash outflow. Now, the moment imo ni siyang ibaligya, ako ni siyang i-slide lang. Okay. So mo ni siya atong i-discuss purchase of property, purchase of investment, then make loan to others. These are investing activities. So the moment you receive interest here and interest here, the interest that you receive will be, ang interest lang ha, will be considered as operating activities na inflow. Now, the moment imo ni siyang ibaligya, ang cash inflow ana niya will be considered also under investing activities. Kung asa nimo siya gisulod, purchase man ka, di mo siyang ibaligya, then that will be also considered as investing activities. Dili siya operating but rather investing. Ato rin siyang kung asa siya ning gawas, ato rin po nato siya isulod. Now, when you sell this investment, imo na siyang ibaligya na nimo, no? So whatever halin, that will be considered also as investment or cash inflow under investing activities. And then, when you collect these loans to other entities, when you collect this one, yung sunod po anak niya will be cash inflows under investing activities. So, ingon anak lang, no? Para mas madali nato siyang makimanan. Okay, so these are investing activities. Financing activities, now, these are ang iyang changes in long-term liabilities at the stockholders' equity. When you put up a business, you need money to finance your daily needs. So these are your operating activities. And then, of course, when you purchase equipment, you also need money. Just like atong ibalik nato kang aton pila tong investment ni ni attorney 150,000. So, kailangan niya ang 150,000 para gamiton niya sa iyang operation and then pangkalit niya sa iyang equipment. So that ang financing activities karos, you need financing, right? The operational requirement, you have investment requirement, so you need fund to finance these two. Now, there are two options. Kung asa na siya, there are two sources sa imong financing. One is, you can finance your own operation, just like ni attorney, 100% i-finance niya ang iyang operation. Pag-start niya, i-finance niya iyang operation sa katong 150,000. So, these are cash inflows from the contribution coming from the owner. Now, in the case here, ipasabot niya din from sale of common stock. There are three kinds of business operation, organization. You have the proprietorship, you have the partnership, and then the corporation. In here, ang ihang gikuanan ni is because you want financing, you want money, you need money to finance your operation and investing activities. You sell your stocks, no? Imo siya gi-open to public ang imong business so that naidaghan nga kuan kanang ni subscribe sa imong stock. So these are sale of common stock to to outside investors. So muna siya cash inflow from sale of common stock or from issuance of debt funds and notes. So instead na kaning ikaduha nga option, issuance of debt funds and notes. So these are your in this case, na maligya ka o bonds or notes which are long-term. So, sale of common stock, so these are the contribution coming from the owner. In the case of attorney, katong gihimo nga investment ni attorney ni M Campos, which is 150,000. So, one ang gihang option. Now, the cash outflow here is the moment mamayad si stockholder o dividend, ang company o dividend to stockholders, so that will be a reduction. And that is a financing activity. And then when you redeem long-term debt or reacquire capital stock, so that is also considered as cash outflow. So, mo ginito ginumduman kung asa siya ni sulod at kung ato po siya dapat ato igawas. So, operating activities, these are information that you will find in the income statement. Investing activities, these are information that you will find in the balance sheet, specifically under the investment and long-term asset na classification. And then sa financing activities, these are your movement in the long-term liabilities. Mao man ni siya kining issuance of debt. Ang impact ani niya is ang consideration ani niya sa atong financial statement is long term, kay more than 1 year man siya bayaran. And then from the contribution of the owner, by the time mang-issue kang dividend, so that will be a reduction from financial activities. And then when you pay or redeem the bonds, that will also be a financing activities na transaction. Okay, so masabtan nato na siya. Now, there are also significant non-cash activities. Dili lang na siya non-involved nga transaction will be non-cash. So these are the typical example. Direct issuance of common stock to purchase assets. Or nag-barter na sila. So instead nga when you sell stocks to the public, ma-receive of cash ang company, naay ko kanang pwede man moingon si owner o si kanang possible investor, moingon si company kanang Mr. X, we want to we want to use your piece of land kay kailangan na magamit namo na siya sa among operation. Now, with the amount of value sa among land, we will give you shares of stock. So mahitabo wala na involved na cash transaction in between the company and Mr. X, but rather naging owner na, naging stockholder na si Mr. X niya for the value of land nga gigamit sa company. Katong land naging ang owner ato ang ang company niya in exchange tagaan og stock si Mr. X niya stockholder na siya. So in this case wala siya involved na cash. And then conversion of bonds into common stock. Now, these are main bonds, these are long term. Yeah, these are somehow there are bonds na pwede ni siya convertible to common stock. So meaning like ako I want to na ako extra money unya si San Miguel Corporation karon na baligya na siya bonds para gamiton niya sa iyang mga expansion sa business. So, kanang bonds, unsa may ako nga nipalit ana niya, unsa may akong benefit ana niya, maka-receive kog interest, and at the same, maka-receive kog interest say kung 5 years na siya, maka-receive kog interest yearly on the duration of 5 years. Kanya after 5 years, bayaran ko ni San Miguel Anak Corporation after 5 years. So, muna ang akong ginansya ato is katong akong interest na na-receive. Now, in this case here, kung convertible na siya, pwede na siya i-convert ang katong bonds into a common stock. So, ang mahitabuan niya, dili na ko maka-receive o interest coming from San Miguel, but rather, maka-receive na ko o dividend. Kay kung ano naman po, stockholder naman po. So, naa na siya nga option. So, in this case, again, there's no cash involved. So, na siya ang cash activity. Issuance of debt to purchase assets sa maghihapon parehas na siya sa katong number 1, no? And then exchange of plant assets. So, pwede rapot na siya ng pag-exchange plant assets. So, if you look at the transaction, wala din siya nag-involve of cash. So, in this case, kining 1 to 4 na transaction, somehow, there's no way na mo form part ni siya sa atong statement of cash flows, but rather, it will be reported in a separate schedule. Remember, katong notes to financial statement, so ato na siya dito i-highlight or a separate note to the financial statement. So, makita gihapon nato siya sa financial statement but not in the cash flow. Okay. Now, format of the statement of cash flows. So this is the order of presentation, no? It will always first operating activities, then investing activities, and then financing activities. Okay, na siya yung order of presentation. Now, in the indirect method, both in the direct and indirect method, operating activities and investing activities will be diha mag-differ ang ihang presentation. But in the financing activities, it will be the same. So this is the template of the statement of cash flows. Remember ha, magiging siya ang atong format. Okay, so you have the company name, statement of cash flows for the period covered. So, for the period covered, none of siya beginning and end. It's just like income statement and owner's equity. So you start with cash flows from operating activities, and then list of individual items. So, naka-detail na siya, no? Yeah, so, these are, so, sunod na siya, depende na siya pila ka-account. And then, after ni mo na siya ma-list, assuming there are 10 items here, mo na siya i-list 10 items, and then, di mo na siyang i-total, then, net cash provided by operating activities. Mo na siya yung result. And then, cash flows from investing activities, list of individual inflows and outflows, in the net cash provided used by investing activities. Take note of the net cash provided. So that's positive. Pero kung negative ang iyahang result, that means na kay use. Kaya di ba inflow, outflow. Inflow is a positive, is an addition to cash of the company. But outflow is a reduction from cash, from the cash balances. So, use mo na siya. Provided, so that's your cash inflow. And then use, that's your cash outflow. So, kung makita nato din ni, nagka-parenthesis na siya because the result of this may be a positive or negative. And then this one here, maghihapon net cash provided or used by investing activities. And then the third one, cash flows from financing activities, net cash provided or used by financing activities. So, ano siya ang atong format, no? So, ano ang format na to? Then, from there, kana, then net increase or decrease in cash. So, assuming this is used, so negative ni diri, this is used, so negative, this is used or negative. So, that would mean na there's a net decrease in cash. Pero kung positive, assuming this is negative, this is positive, and then assuming this one is positive, so meaning niya, there's a net increase in cash. However, for purposes of kuan siya no, for kanang consistency, always ato gid siya ibutang na lang gid increase unya in parenthesis decrease. And then from here, atong i-add ang atong cash at beginning of the period. Ano ba na cash at beginning of the period? So if this is December, so this is your, if this is December, assuming 2021, today is December 20, we are preparing a cash statement as of kanang today, May 30. So your beginning here is, these are the balance of your December 31, 2020, or this is your cash at beginning of the period, which is January 1, 2022. Always remember whatever ending here, December 31, assuming you are using the calendar year. So, meaning ang atong ending is December 31. So, automatic by January 1, that's your, whatever is your ending in December 31, your beginning will also be the same. So, pareha lang. So, cash at beginning of the period, so meaning this is your January 1 or December 31 of last year. And then, this one plus this one, you will arrive at cash at end of the period. So, which is today. So, again, so double rule na tayo na siya. So, that ends your report. And then, in here, so there are items there were movements nga wala siya nag-involve of cash, ato ra siyang i-list separately. So, non-cash investing and financing activities, din ato siyang i-separate of list. So, wala siya ang atong template. No, kung ano gid no, in-ana gid na siya, whatever, sa nga, maski asa ka nga, if ever you will go back to the activity 1 bitaw nato, statement of cash flows, you will see this and try to revisit your activity 1. So, makita nato ni siya nga format. Now, with that, again, let's go to preparation of the statement of cash flows using the indirect method. So there are 3 sources of information. The comparative balance sheet. So may comparative, these are 2 periods yun ang atong ang last year. Basta there are always 2 periods here. Yeah, the current income statement and then additional information. Only atong sources of information. So these are the steps. Step 1, determine net cash provided by operating activities by converting net income from an accrual basis to cash basis. Mas masabtan nato nino kung ato siyang tan-aw. Yes, information. Number two, analyze changes in current asset and liability, meaning out of the comparative balance sheet, makita naman nato dayon pilay difference. Mo na siya ikot ipasabot, no? I-analyze ang changes. Analyze changes in current asset and liability accounts and report as investing and financing activities. Okay. And then, so there's year 1, year 2, wala siyang comparative nato. The comparative nato, maybe January and February. Depende na siya sa kung ano, kung sa na period ang gusto nimo nga himuan. Now, companies do not favor the indirect method for two reasons: easier and less costly to prepare, then focuses on differences between net income and net cash flow from operating. Let us use this kanang sample statement. No, let us use the sample statement. You can take, sige na lang. So, this is the income statement of Computer Services Company, income statement for the month ended December 31, 2017. Then you have your sales revenue, 507, cost of goods sold, 150, and then operating expenses excluding depreciation expense. Now, normally, in the financial statement, depreciation is part of your operating expenses. But for purposes of illustration, i-separate lang niya ang depreciation expense for purposes sa siya. But rather, in the normal preparation, ang depreciation expense form part na siya sa cost of goods sold or operating expenses. But definitely, there's a different, diba, katong accumulated depreciation, maamatay himoon nga different schedule ani niya. So, makita ra gyud siya. So, kanilang i-specify lang ni siya. And then, loss on disposal of equipment. And then, interest expense. So, these are typical transactions. And then interest expense, so you have here 507. So here 150, moneto cost of goods sold, operating expenses, depreciation, loss. Take note here kung ano man ni siya. Kung gain pa unta ni, so this will be gain on disposal of equipment, so this will be kanang in parenthesis ni nganong gain, I repeat, if this is gain paunta ni, this will be presented as negative here. Nganong negative man nga gain man siya? Because supposed to be kanang imong gain that will be, diba, you generate that is somehow you generate cash out of the sale, diba? So mo na siyang whatever these are your cash expense as disbursement, but when you dispose equipment niya on a gain, so somehow murag na cover partially ang imong na cover partially ang imong disbursement. So in this case here, loss man siya. So you lost on something, so that's an added na reduction sa imong that's an added burden to the company. So, wala siya nga, different part na siya diha loss, the interest expense, another na siya, no? So, this is your total expenses for the period, so that sales revenue minus total expenses, so your income before income tax is 192. And then, you provide for income tax expense, so that this is your net income, which is 745,000. So, this is as of this is for the month ended December 31, 2017. Okay. So take note of the income statement. So next is, this is now your comparative balance sheet. It is always, to prepare cash flow, your balance sheet should always be in comparative. So meaning, comparative, you have two periods. In this case, 2016, i-compare siya, ang 2017 is compared to 2016. Always when you prepare the comparative, the first column should always be your current year, And then the next column should always be your prior year. Okay? So, computer services, comparative balance sheets, December 31. Ano wala ka na date, kaya naalaman siya the Reno 2017 and 2016. So, comparative. Again, ato gid na siyang kuan nato, prepare gid nato ni siya na yung current assets, yung cash, AR, inventory, prepaid, and then property, plant and equipment, yung land, building, and so on. And then in your liabilities and stockholders' equity or owner's equity for that matter, you have your current liabilities, and then you have your long-term liabilities, and then your stockholders' equity. So these are your total liability and stockholders' equity. So this is for 2017 and this is for 2016. So considering this is comparative, what you will do is ato na gid siyang mo na siya ingon i-analyze. So in analyzing by looking into the changes. So sa man siyang changes, the difference between your prior year and your current year. O current period ana siya. So here, so himuon gyud nato ni siya ani nga process. Mo ni siya atong number 1 nga process yun. So like here, 55 minus 33, that's 22. 20 and 30, that's 10, so that's decrease, right? And then 15 and 10, there's an increase. 5 and 10, there's a decrease. No, 5 and 1, so there's an increase of 4,000. And then there is a property, plant and equipment. From 20 to 130, there's an increase of 110. Butangan nato na siya increase ha. And then from 40 to 160, there's an increase. And then from 5 to 11, there is an increase of 6. Then 10 and to 7, 17. And then 1 to 3, there's an increase. Patayo na gihapon ta sa page 2, there's a liabilities. And then 12 and 28, there's an increase. 8 and 6, there was a decrease in amount. And then 20 to 130, there's an increase. Then 50 to 70, there's an increase. Yeah, 48 to 164, there is an increase. Okay. Balikan na po na siya. So, ana ang iyang process. So, next is, here's another additional information. Depreciation expense was comprised of 6,000 for building and 3,000 for equipment. So, kung balikan nato ni naakay 9,000 here, no, muna yung depreciation expense. Ang composition daw, ana, is 6 for building and 3 for equipment. And then, the company sold equipment with a book value of 7. Cost is 8,000, less accumulated depreciation no 1. Yeah, for 4,000 cash. And then number 3, issued 110,000 of long-term bonds in exchange of direct land. So in this case here, if you notice here, diba, na nag-increase balikan natin here. Nag-increase ang atong land by 110,000. At the same time, increase po tayo ang atong bonds payable. So in this case here, wala na initially palit o land, but rather, nag-issue siya bond in exchange for land. So this will be a non-cash item somehow sa atong cash flow. And then the building costing, ang 220 was purchased for cash. So kini, iyang i-purchase for cash. Equipment costing 25 was also purchased for cash. And then here, issued common stock for 20,000 cash. So kini siya ang number 5, mauni siya, no? So here, na siya gipang issue din, nag-issue man siya stock but rather in exchange for land. But in here, nag-issue siya stock worth 20,000. But in this case, na-receive niya ang cash. And then, the retained earnings increased by 116,000. So these are the information that we will be using in constructing our cash flow. Okay. So these are the steps, no? Step 1 is determine net cash provided used by operating activities by converting net cash from accrual basis. Ngunit akong giingon kanina. From accrual basis to cash basis. So these are the method that we will be doing. These are the common adjustments to net income or loss. What we will do first is we add back non-cash expenses. So unsa man ang ato mga non-cash expenses, these are depreciation, remember? Depreciation, amortization, or depreciation expense. So kini pa nato ni siya na take up, no, amortization of depreciation. Ang ato lang na take up is depreciation. Yeah, deduct gains and add losses. Then analyze changes in non-cash current asset and current liability accounts. So, here. So this is step 1 nato, operating activities. We will always start anigid ang ihang text. Cash flows from operating activities. Cash flows, Cash flows from operating activities. So that's the start. Balikan na ko to. Okay. Cash flows from operating activities. Then, we start from net income. Asa man igikan? Nato ni siya sa atong income statement, no? 145,000. And then, next is adjustments. Ano rin na nga term? Gamiton rin na to adjustments to reconcile net income to net cash provided by operating activity. We will start with, ako na lang ni siyang i-move forward para makita nato ang total. Anyway, tagsa-tagsaw na lang. Sige. We start with adjustments to reconcile net income to net cash provided by operating activity. So, look at here, paano siya? Follow na siya, no? So, meaning, a lot follows ng mga activities. So, we will always start with depreciation expense. So, ato siyang i-add back. Ano naman? I-add back man nato siya. Kung balikan nato ang atong income statement, okay. Ano to? Balikan nato atong income statement. Kung wala pa unta ning depreciation expense, pila dapat unta ang atong kuan. Remember, depreciation expense is non-cash. Anong non-cash man na siya? Kay di ba, gipalit nato ang atong equipment at the start, just like sa campus capital. Gipalit nato ang atong equipment at the start of the business. So that, by the time ato na siyang gamiton, ato na i-depreciate ang katong cost of equipment. So, by say, pagka-August na, mag-declare gihapon si Kuan, di ba, 5 years, assuming 5 years ning atong life sa atong equipment, ato siya i-represent 5 years. So that, monthly, mag-declare ka o depreciation expense, which is non-cash na siya. While nag-declare ka diri of expense na depreciation, but you never pay it, there's no cash involved na ana niya. So that, by kaning 145,000 na to should have been, kung wala pa unta ning 9,000, pila unta ning atong net income here?
100,
Paki-compute.
136.
No. Kung expense man ni siya, kung wala pa unta ni,
Ay,
pila unta ning atong net income?
136 ka ni.
Should have been bigger. By 9. Diba? Pila dapat? 145, kung wala pa ng depreciation expense, pila dapat siya ang iyang net income?
154.
154. So, na siya no, because this is non-cash, assuming this is cash, 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 so that this is cash, so that na siya na 145. Pero non-cash money, well, so meaning you did not pay for this. So, ang imong net income using the cash basis should have been 154. So, na siya atong i-add back. Hello? Hello, people?
Yes,
Anong atong i-add back? Because we did not pay for it. Remember, we are trying to compute how much is the cash generated by operating activities. In this case, we started with 145,000. This is a result of accrual basis of accounting. So, but we are trying to reconstruct pila dapat day ang atong cash operating activity, cash cash generated out of operating activity. So, mo na siyang atong i-add back ang depreciation expense. So, I want you to understand that nanong i-add back siya. So, that's number 1. So, net cash provided by operating activities is 154. So, that's just one of the in the list, no? 154. So, next is loss on disposal of equipment. Remember na siya ay 3,000 na tanong, yan na report. Anong kuan man siya, anong ato man siyang i-reconcile as part of reconciling item? It's because when you sell equipment, you are not in the business of buying and selling equipment, but rather, you buy equipment tungkol kay gamito nimo. In the case, imo siyang gibaligya, kung na-result siyang loss, it has nothing to do with operation. Makataon lang gibaligya nimo, nabaligya nimo at a loss, so it has nothing to do with operation. So that any loss on disposal is added, just like depreciation, ato siyang i-add back sa ato ang kuan kanang i-add back nato siya sa atong net income because it has nothing to do with operation. I-add back. However, kung i-gain pa ni siya, ato po siya i-deduct. Anong i-deduct man nato siya? Because kung, di ba sa akong illustration kanina, kung ni-gain on to siya, so the net income of the business should have been higher. But in the case sa kuan, in the case ani nga loss man siya, so mo tong 145,000 lang ang iyahang na generate nga net income because there was a loss of 3,000. But we are trying to reconstruct how much is our cash gain because of operating activities. Kung ato siyang i-add back ang loss, kung gain ato siyang i-deduct. Okay, so mo na siya. So in this case here, loss on disposal atong i-add back, just like depreciation expense. Okay. Next is, we will try to, the next activity here is we will look into the changes to non-cash current asset. So tanaw na to, so we will go back to our balance sheet. So these are the three so tanaw na to. Item number 1, we're done. Item number 2, we're done. So next is, we look into the changes to non-cash current asset. So, balikan na to ang atong balance sheet. Here. Current asset, so tanaw na to ang atong specific ragit siya sa atong current asset, but we will look into non-cash. which are the AR, inventory, and prepaid expenses. So, muna ika-third na item. Tanaw na to, the changes, what are the movements in AR, what are the movements in inventory, what are the movements in prepaid expenses. So, ato ni siyang, mao ni siyang mga figure, kani 10,000, 5,000, 4,000. So, ang problema na lang nato ani niya karon is, saan nato ni i-add pa nato, ni siya i-add back pa nato ni or i-deduct nato into mga items. So, that's what we are going to analyze now. Now, I would like to pose questions ani na kung ano para ma-rationalize nato. Now, from 30,000 in 2016, and then nahimong 20,000 in 2017. So there's a decrease in 10,000. What do you think will happen to your cash? Will it increase or decrease? Again, in 2016, nailistahan si nanay sa iyang sari-sari store. Accounts receivable, so lista man na siya na kung kisay nakautang. In 2016, sa listahan ni nanay, na siya worth na 30,000 na collectible. Okay? Yeah, so that's in 2016. After 1 year, pagka 2017, ang nasa listahan ni nanay is only 20,000. So from 30 to 20, di-decrease siya of 10,000. So akong question karon, what's the impact of that 10,000 to the cash ni nanay? Will it increase or decrease?
Increase, miss.
Increase. Okay. Nakolekta man niya, di ba? From 30, nahimo na lang 20. So, nakolekta niya. So, what do you think we will do to our under 10,000? Is it an addition or a deduction? Sa presentation nato. Will it increase or decrease in cash? So, ingon ninyo, increase. So, ato siyang i-present as addition, no? So, may ka-addition. Decrease in accounts receivable. Dili ta maglibog ha. Decrease siya, pero atong i-add. So, actually, atong i-analyze. When there is a decrease in accounts receivable, meaning ana niya increase ang cash o ang cash nato. Okay? So, ana lang kasi maglibog niya ta kay decrease ni siya unya ato siyang i-add. Yeah. Sunod is increase in inventory. Negative lagi. Meaning, i-read mo reduce ang cash. So, balikan na po ang example na to. Okay. Na, ang inventory niya is 10 in 2016. Pag 2017, nahimo siyang 15. What do you think happened here? So, may nakita po, from 10, nag-inventory si nanay sa 2016, na siya worth 10,000. Pag abot sa 2017, nahimo 15,000. What do you think happened?
Wala.
Nipalit siya new supplies, miss.
Okay, so nangumpra siya. So, siyempre, kung mangumpra ka, natutnin nga a use of cash, di ba? So, nangumpra siya, muna siya nga, reduction from cash. Increase. When there is an increase in inventory, so that would mean a usage of cash or payment to suppliers. So, muna siya nga negative atong i-reduce. Follow? Next is ang iyang prepaid expenses. When there is increase in prepaid expenses, so it could be 1,000 man to, no? 1,000 siya in 2016. Pagka 2017, mo siyang 5. So, there was an increase of 4. So, it could be ipalit si mama og additional nga insurance. So that's why the increase ang iyang prepaid expenses, that's a use of cash. Wala siya nga negative. So the net cash provided by operating activities is 158,000. So at this point, mao pa na siya. So we are done with analyzing. So atong balikan ha, first is depreciation, next is loss of disposal, and then the next one kaning tulo, we look into the items in the current assets other than cash. So we look or the other way around is we look into the current asset na section other than cash item. So these are non-cash man, no? These are non-cash. So atong tan-awon i-analyze nato ang iyang increase. So muna siya 1, 2, 3. Next nato nga himuon is changes in current liabilities. Manaman ta sa current assets, and then we look into kung mangutang ka, kung naa kay money nga 5,000 nya, mangutang ka, makuhaan ba ang imong cash? Kung mangutang ka, naa ba'y movement imong cash kung mangutang ka?
Wala, miss.
Wala, no? So, the moment mangutang ka, somehow, there's a prevented cash outflow. You use money, you use other people's money. So, in your case, walay kuano kanang pumangutang ka, makagamit ka og inventory, makagamit ka og services without paying any cash at all. Kaya imo man siya ang giutang. So somehow, in this case here, from 12 to 28, so there's an increase of 16. So this will contribute to paano pa ng increase in cash. Wala siyang iyang indication. Yeah, here sa taxes payable, from 8,000 to 6. Sa kaming 2,000 addition or subtraction sa cash. What will happen to cash? Sa 8,000, pag 2016 na kay income tax payable na 8,000, nga pagka 2017 himo na lang 6. What happened to 2,000?
Conditions.
Ang imong bayranan sa gobyerno, in 2016 himo 8,000 to. Pagka 2017 himo na lang 6. What did you do? Kung sa may nahitabo ka, go ahead, go ahead.
Decrease ang cash.
Unsa? Putol-putol, di na ako makuan. Kung saan nahitabo, nagbayad ka, no? Nagbayad ka. Ay, 8,000 tong imong bayron nga tax. Pagkabot sa 2017, mo na lang 6. So, nagbayad ka og 2,000. So, that will be a reduction from cash. So, in here, na siya, no? Increase in accounts payable. So, that's an addition to cash. And then, Decrease in income tax payable, that's a payment, so that's a reduction from cash. Muna yung maglibo ko niya mo ano yung decrease, i-decrease niya, yung positive, yung increase negative, yung increase negative. Pag abot na rin sa liability, the current liabilities ang increase is addition to cash, yung decrease is a reduction from cash. So, ato nang natanaw no ang depreciation, loss on disposal, and then your current assets, and then your current liabilities. So all in all, the result of this from 145, niya plus 9, and so on. So net cash provided by operating activities is 172,000. So in this case, we were now able to convert the accrual basis to cash basis. So this is now the net cash provided by operating activities. This is very important because di ba okay, ang nag-generate na ako nga cash provided by operating activities is 172. While we reported a net income, ang indication ano niya is, while we reported, ang ato reported nga net income is only 145,000, but in reality, we were able to generate cash of 172,000 because of this reconciling items na to. Kaya kung cash basis pa unta ka, of course, more niya nga ito mag-generate na rin na kuha na to without going through here. We will be able to compute ng outright ganit. Cash basis naman katanan. But because we are doing the accrual, we need to do this analysis. And then at the end, we were able to compute now the net cash provided by operating activities. So happy kay tanong kay 172,000 ang iyang generate. Okay? So that's the first part of the operating activities. And then for your guidance, you can always go here sa iyang sa iyang treatment, just in case makalimot mo what's the treatment. It's really difficult for you, but somehow as you analyze more, then mas masaktan nato na siya. Okay. So that's your guide. Now, investing activities. So this is our net cash provided by operating activities. This is the first part. So the second part is cash flows from investing activities. There was purchase of building. Kita na nato ni siya diretsyo. Wala na makita na nato siya. Purchase of building, usaga na siya tanaw nato ani ang atong long-term assets, no? Na-increase man siya. So that's definitely tungkol kay ni-increase, so meaning nagpalit ka. So automatically that's a use of fund. And purchase of equipment, that's a use of fund. And then here, sale of equipment, 4,000. Addition siya or addition to cash. Let's go back to the analysis nato here sa given. Para masabtan nato. This complicates the mga issues. Item number 2. The company sold equipment with a book value of 7. Pili pagbaligyan niya. Baligyan niya 4, no? So kung ang cost sa value, ang book value of the equipment is 7, ibaligya lang niya og 4, so there's a difference of 3. So that was the reported nato nga loss on sale of equipment. Kaya ang book value niya 7 man, ibaligya rin nato 4. So definitely, ni-loss gid siya og 3,000. So mo gi-report nato dito sa income statement nga 3,000 as loss on sale of equipment. But the 4,000 nga atong na-receive, ato siyang i-report diri sa atong investing activities. here. Sale of equipment. This is the sale of equipment. This is the cash generated out of the sales, which is 4,000. So cash flows from investing activities. So nagpagawas tag cash, but we received cash na 4. So money siya 141,000. So this is your net cash used by investing activities. But for consistency, pwede ginato na siya katong net cash generate net cash sorry from sa atong kuan template nato para really na ta mag-utro-utro. The description will remain the same. Net cash provided or used by investing activities. Used man siya kay negative, no? But for consistency, data na lang yun nga ato siyang net cash provided niya, negative, parenthesis used. Kay kung tanaw nato here, okay, so this is used. No, this is because of building. This is a used. This is a used, but this is provided. So, for consistency, pwede rin yun nato ni siya butang the net cash provided o niya used in parentheses by investing activities. So in this case, negative man siya, so used na siya 141,000. So we're done with part 2. Part 3 is cash flows from financing activities. So issuance of common stock, 20,000, and then payment of cash dividends na 29,000. So net cash provided by financing activities. The net increase in cash, so 172 minus 141 minus 9, so there was a net increase in cash of 22. And then cash at beginning of the period, which is 33, so this is cash at end of the period na 55,000. So take a look here, net increase in cash 22,000. So makita nato ni siya, if we look back, so this is the same amount dapat ang matong ma-generate here. Look at here. This is our 33,000 beginning. This is our net cash generated. A net decrease in cash na 22. And then so that your cash at end of the period is 55. So the report nato nga operating activities, investing activities, and financing activities, we were able to give details what contributed to the increase in 22,000. So basically, the cash flow is giving us the details of what transpired nga nung ni-increase siya or the decrease siya to 22,000. In this case, the-increase siya from 33 to 55. So the breakdown of the 22,000, only siya di ay makita nato sa katong-atong mo mga cash flow. Okay. So that's the full report. Statement of cash flows, indirect method. Dili sa ako mo take up sa direct method because somehow this is more complicated. So we start here from net income, 145,000. And then, ana gyud ang iyang ang iyang text gyud ani script niya. Adjustments to reconcile net income to net cash provided by operating activities. So you start here from 145,000, then you look into your income statement, depreciation expense, you add back, loss on disposal, you add back, and then you look into, kung wala na lain items, then you look into your current assets. Yeah, decrease, the increase in inventory, increase in prepaid expenses, and then wala na lain, so you look into your current liabilities. Duha lang, increase in accounts payable, decrease in income tax payable. So this is your net cash provided by operating. activities. And then, part 2, you have cash flows from investing. So, we are going to look at this in the kung ano katong long-term assets na portion. 120, purchase of equipment, then sale of equipment. And then net cash used by investing activities. Then cash flows from financing activities, you have issuance of common stock, payment of cash dividends, and then you have net cash provided by or used by financing activities. So 145, 172, 141, and then 9, that gives you your net increase in cash. So because of this statement, we have now the information asa din siya gikan nipalit ka ita o mo din atong gipalit ka equipment nya lipay ka ita kay naka-generate ka ita net cash provided by operating activities na 72 somehow after everything we were still able to generate an increase in cash of 22. And then we add back the beginning, we add it to the beginning of the period na cash. So that brings us to the cash at the end of the period, which is 50. So that's basically the yung analysis, the simple direct na analysis na So with that, this is our last lesson. And then, this will be our final nato ka-coverage. Kuan lang, maghatag lang po ani niya o activities. Somehow, wala na ilain na kuan na to na activities. Ang atong activity 16, almost complete naman to siya from the very beginning. Kay kuan ato niya is from the journal to the ledger, and then himo og trial balance, and then himo worksheet, then himo adjustment, and then nag-journalize sa adjustment, then naghimo og post-closing trial balance, closing entries, then post-closing trial balance. So that completes our activities, our lesson. And then this one, cash flow. So mag-post po ani niya og cash flow na activity. Deadline siguro na ko ani a week after. Kay supposed to be ang atong final is July 4 man tingali no, July 4 to 10. So that's the final. So over na nato siya tanan ang atong. Question people. Hello. Ako rin siyang i-upload. Questions? Complicated? Important kaayo gid ni siya na as early as now, you have the basic already in preparing the cash flow. Because this is very important na you have more exercises. Again, in the feasibility study, you will be preparing kani siya nga mga report, income statement, balance sheet, owner's equity, and then the cash flow. If you start this early, makaingon kung by the time na you will be preparing your feasibility study, so somehow mas confident na mo na kung prepare by your own. But of course, there are groups na they opt to hire professional to prepare the financials. But I think good siya. It's good. You really learn this one para kanang at your disposal ang inyong timetable to complete your feasibility study. So na. And of course, you will be able to save an amount because you will not be paying professional services preparing your financial statement. And Oh, questions? Before that, pwede mag-picture sa ata, makalimot na po niya ko. Let me take picture pasaramanin ko. Sige, I'll take 2. Another one. Okay, so questions? Shoot. Pangunta na. Clarence?
Wala ra, miss.
O, wala may pangutana? Naglibog pa ko sa iyong pangutana. Okay, so kung wala na, that would be, so schedule na to ang Let's meet again. Next week na ba ang 20, yung final, yung Next week na ba? Di pa, no? Anyway, we will meet again next week. Shortly, follow up. Then mag-upload lang po another activity for the cash flow. So, kana na. And then we'll have our final exam. Final exam, focus na po siya sa cash flow. Kaya naman ta sa top pre-final ang katong post-closing, no? Closing entries. So for the final, specific siya sa cash flow. And then maybe cash flow and mga some other questions maybe as review also sa kanang atong mga past lessons. So, pana lang. Wala na? So that's it, people.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thank you, Miss.